Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the release of the Tamiya 1/20th scale Ferrari F189 Portuguese GP Formula 1 race car. It's the late version of that model, and this is kit number 20024. Tamiya releases this kit over and over again, so it's usually available at online hobby shops and in large hobby stores. These companies don't use skill levels, but I would consider this a level 4. There's around 90 parts molded in red, black, white, smoke clear, and rubber tires with some screws. It has a removable cowling, and there is complete engine detail. A driver figure is included also. Water slide decals are included, but they're generic without the cigarette promotions. Overall dimensions are length 8.5 inches, width 4 inches, and height 2.25 inches. Here are the decals for this kit. As you can see, they're very colorful and the registry is good. I strongly recommend using some decal setting solution to make it fit those contours, but as always, use the manufacturer's safety and use guidelines when using any of the products mentioned here in the review for your own protection. I mainly use Model Masters liquid cement for the build, but there are other adhesives used, such as super glue for strength at the suspension points and some white glue for clear parts. For the most part, also, I'll use enamel or Tamiya acrylic bottle paints through an airbrush, and rattle can paints too for things like primer. Once you've got all the parts out and displayed, I recommend you just coat them with a good even coat of a nice primer to get the ability to paint that red plastic. Now gather up the parts shown here to assemble the motor and the subframe. You can assemble some of this before painting for extra detail. So put the motor halves together in the valley, then add the transmission, and mix a 50-50 flat brown and gunmetal for the block color. Then mix 3 parts of semi-gloss black to 1 part gunmetal and 1 part gold to paint the transmission. The brace on the transmission is semi-gloss black. The axles are metallic gray and the panels are Ferrari red. Now install the axles and the panels. The upper and lower suspension arms are semi-gloss black, and the center mounts are that 3 1-in-1 mixed color. Then the engine front and transmission top is also the same color. Install the lower suspension arms, snapping the connections in without glue. Install the upper suspension arms onto the transmission top and install the top on the transmission. Then add the engine front. Gather these parts and paint the shocks aluminum with black springs and semi-gloss black arms. Mount the shocks in place on the motor and suspension. The valve covers are a 50-50 mix from the block color with some silver appointments. Install the valve covers. The ignition is black and silver, and that's installed, and the filter is a flat black and installed. Next, the fuel rail is the 50-50 mix with silver and brown, and the intake is flat black with flat dark earth. Add the intake to the fuel rail and install it. The brakes are flat black and installed onto the suspension. Now paint the exhaust manifolds white and install those also. This is the finished motor from the top and the bottom, and it gives you a better view, so note the location of the suspensions and all the connections. Gather these parts for the cockpit unit and the upper suspension bars. And then the cockpit unit has a flat black top and bottom with an aluminum back wall. The upper suspension bars are assembled and then painted semi-gloss black, while the lower ones are just painted. The radiators are aluminum, as well as the little canister piece there, and the side panels are Ferrari red on the outside and flat black on the inner sides. Install the larger side panels and add the upper suspension, then add the canister to the back wall. Install the radiators and add the panels into the lower suspension and install that into the unit. Gather these suspension parts and the appropriate decals for those. Paint the suspension parts semi-gloss black. The shifter is black too, and so is the linkage, which is also steel and gold. The electronic box is steel and black. Decal 17 goes on the electronics box, and decal 28 in the cockpit on the wall. Install the electronics box, linkage and shifter, and then add the suspension parts. I wanted to seat the driver, so I removed the seat. You just set that aside. And also the person comes with two sets of arms, both straight and turning, so I chose the straight arms for my model. Paint the body and the arms flat red with flat black seat belts and a silver harness buckle. The dash, steering wheel, control pod, roll bar and spindles are semi-gloss black. Detail paint the dash with red, blue-gray and yellow-green buttons. Decal the body as per the instruction sheet and install the spindles onto the suspension. Then install the dash in place with the control pod and steering wheel. Add the body into the interior and assemble the arms in place on the shoulders with the wheel in each of the hands. Then add the roll bar. Paint the chassis pan flat black with aluminum where the engine goes. Paint the side panels flat black on the inside and Ferrari red on the outside. Then paint the scoop gray color. Install the cockpit unit into place on the chassis pan. Then add the side panels and add the engine unit. Add the scoop to the motor. I give the tires a road used look to hide the mold line. Just press and roll the tire on a sheet of fine sandpaper to roughen the surface and give that tire a used look. There are larger rear tires and smaller front tires. The tire decals are a strange reverse water decal. So you cut the decal out and press it in place onto the tire. Wet the paper and hold it in place there until the decal comes loose. Slowly remove the paper, leaving the decal in place. I then went over the decals with a little bit of pledge floor care in order to seal them onto the tires. Now paint the rims semi-gloss black and install them into the tires. Paint the disc brakes a mix of gold and silver, with the hub and caliper remaining steel color. Install the brakes with the calipers on the side toward the center of the car onto the hub spindles. Using the screw bolts there and the handy included tool installation unit, install the tires onto the suspension. This completes your rolling chassis, and at this point it allows you to move to painting the body. Gather the body parts prior to painting, add the mirrors, and add the head support and the camera. Then assemble the sides onto the front wing before painting, and take care to remove any blemishes that you find on the body surface. I'll be using a more authentic color for this with the Gravity Colors hobby paint called Ferrari Rosso F1. It's the color's name, and it's item GC-210 in their catalog. Now paint the body emblem, a mix of flat brown and flat dark earth. The body is a flat black on the inside and Ferrari red on the outside. The wing is black, and I added the emblem after painting to the head support. The center of the wing is yellow-green on the underside. Install the wing onto the body at this time. Assemble the rear wing and paint it black, and then install the rear wing into place onto the body at the rear. Gather these parts and assemble the figure's head. Using the instruction sheet and the decals based on the driver of your choice, paint and decal the helmet and visor as needed. Add the visor to the helmet, and once it's finished, add the head to the driver figure in the car. This completes the assembly process of the model, and all that remains is final decals on the body. Using the instructions or these photos as a guide, apply the decals to the body using some setting solution to make sure that they conform to contours and stick well. After you've gotten them all applied, give the car another coat of clear paint in order to bring out the shine and seal in the decals. Here is the completed car from the front view, and then also from the rear view. It was quite an aerodynamic design change at the time for the F1 cars. All that you'll have remaining from the parts for the kit are the arms for turning and the seat and the optional driver decals. This Tamiya kit represents one of the pioneering F1 cars in good fashion. The fit and finish is good overall, and the build is quite easy because it's one of the simpler kits due to a lower part count and a large body shell. The motor assembly was typical and fit together well and is pretty well detailed, and the rear suspension is much easier than many of the F1 kits. It fits nice and doesn't have any problems really. The cockpit and the main body area are also simplified, and so alignment is quite easy. The front suspension was also easy because it snapped together. There were no issues with fit, the body was straight and clear, and the large main panel made overall assembly a breeze. The decals went on easily, and Tamiya has one of their highlights here with the callouts for their paints, because they use their brands of paints and give you the exact mix ratios for perfect color combinations to make this a great replication of the original car. With a simplified kit and direct build, this is a great mid-level F1 kit for the modeler who's not ready for the fully detailed kits that can be very detailed and extremely tedious. We hope you like this step-by-step review, and so that you don't miss any more reviews, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. But you can find us on Facebook and on the web at www.rightonreplicas.com. Thanks!